In the last section, we finally got some content to appear on the screen of our browser. Now that we've got some working application put together, we're going to start to focus on the JSX that we had written into our app component in the index.js file. I want to first explain to you exactly what JSX is. So when you look at this stuff, as I've said many times, it looks like HTML, but in reality, it's not. It's not HTML at all. I want to give you a quick reminder about something that we spoke about just a little bit ago. Remember, I had told you just a little bit ago that when we write ES 2015 code, which you and I like to do as developers, we do not ship it down directly to a user's browser because their browser might not have ES 2015 or 16 or 17 fully supported. So in order to get around that, we had said that we made use of that dependency called Babel. We made use of Babel to take the ES 2015, 2016, or whatever code and convert it down to normal ES5 JavaScript. Babel is also used to process that JSX that you saw as well. So when we take this JavaScript file and ship it down to our user's browser, and even as it's running in our browser right now, it does not contain this JSX in here that looks like an HTML tag. Your browser, in no user's browser, natively understands what JSX is. So before JSX actually gets sent down to a user's browser, it gets converted into normal-looking JavaScript code. Now you might be immediately curious, how do we take something that looks like this right here and turn it into equivalent normal JavaScript? Well, in order to figure that out, we can actually use a little tool that is made available for us by Babel themselves, the people who make Babel. I'm going to open up a new browser tab, and I'm going to navigate to the Babel homepage, which is at babeljs.io. Once here, I'm going to find the Try It Out button at the very top. So now on this interface, we can write some amount of code here on the left-hand side. This can be ES 2015, 2016, or even code that contains JSX as well. Babel will then automatically convert that code into normal ES5 JavaScript and show it on the right-hand side. Now really quickly, I want you to take a look at the left-hand panel over here and find the presets section, and just make sure that React is checked. All right, so then once we are sure that that is checked, I'm going to go back over to my index.js file. I'm going to copy the entire app component that we just put together, and I'm going to paste it back over here on the left-hand side. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Oh, no, I want that to go away, not bigger. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right, so as you can see, that div right there, that kind of JSX looking thing, actually gets turned into a JavaScript function call. It's a call to react.createElement. The first argument is a string that indicates the type of element that we want to create. Then the third element is the text that we want to show inside of that div. So every time that you see JSX, we're writing JSX just for simplicity's sake. At the end of the day, that JSX gets turned into this big function call right here. So you might immediately be curious, well, if this JSX gets turned into a function call, why don't we just write out a lot of function calls? Well, the answer is really simple. Let's imagine that we have a little bit more complicated component than what you see right here. So for example, maybe we have a div that contains a UL element inside of it. And then that UL has a couple of LIs. So I'll put a couple of LIs, and maybe those LIs have text of their own, like hi there, and maybe the next one will say bye there, and the final one will say gotcha. So on the left-hand side, when we look at this thing in JSX form, it's pretty easy to tell what's going on if you are at least familiar with how HTML works. You can take a glance at this over here and understand that this app component is going to create a div that has a UL and 3 LIs. And you also very quickly can see what text those LIs are going to contain. However, if you look at the converted result over here on the right-hand side, it's a lot harder to take a quick glance at that and understand the exact structure and content of what this component is creating. So the entire purpose of JSX is just to be able to allow us to write out these different function calls that normally occur behind the scenes for us in a much easier to understand format. Much easier to read, much easier to get a sense of what is going on. When you make use of React, it is not required to use JSX, but it is highly recommended. Because if you try to write out all these different function calls, you're going to very quickly write out some code that is very challenging and difficult to maintain. Okay, so now that we understand what's going on with JSX, let's take another quick pause. When we come back to the next section, we'll start experimenting around with it a little bit inside of this index.js file and get a better idea of the rules around it. So quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.